Oh yeah, oh yeah. As we're sitting here, um, imagining and maybe even reimagining the narrative of Sarah as it pertains to her role as a prophetess and the role and function of prophecy in general, it begs for me the question of, where do we find any hints or allusions in the text to her being a prophetess? Like you might read external literature external to the Bible where she's described as a prophetess, but for some people they will say, well, I don't see in the Bible where she's being called a prophetess. And you might even have people say, I don't even think it's alluded to in the Bible that she's inferred as a prophetess. So I want to take the time to introduce us really quick to Genesis chapter 11. So I'm going to go to my share screen just for a moment to just share uh, not much, but a couple of things that I think that we could all glean from in this moment. So I'm going to go to Genesis 11 and 29. And in Genesis 11 and 29, it reads, Abram and Nahor took wives for themselves. The name of Abram's wife being Sarai, and that of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and Iscah. Uh-oh. Who is Iscah? Let me stop the share screen really quick to share with everybody who exactly Iscah is. So in the Gemara in Sanhedrin 58b, it says, how can you understand that Sarah was Abraham's sister? She was his brother's daughter. By tradition, it is known that Sarah was Haran's daughter, Iscah. By tradition, it was known that Sarah was Haran's daughter, Iscah. So I want to stop there for a moment because what I have to say here is highly remarkable, right? So Sarah is Iscah, and this is how we come to know about their blood relation, that she's actually, a cousin of his, right? A blood relative of his, as it were, through her designation as Iscah. But then the question begs, why is Sarah being spoken of here as being called Iscah? So I just want to say two things. It's very common in the Bible for a person to have more than one name as represented of them in the scriptures. For instance, everybody knows that King David has a son named Solomon, and Solomon is the name that is given to him by birth, by his parents. But what name did God send through the prophet Nathan to rename Solomon? That's the question. My biblical scholars out there should know that name is Yedidiah. Yedidiah, sometimes pronounced in the English as Yedidiah, right? I know a brother like that in the Israelite community right now. Been very close with him since the early 90s. He's the son of a great man in Israel known as Nasik Zerishadai ben Yehuda, or Crown Prince Zerishadai ben Yehuda. One of his sons is named Yedidiah, a name that is given to Solomon in the scriptures. So there are several people, as everybody already knows in the Bible, that they have more than one name that they're known by. And I want people to understand that this is a tradition. But in the culture of Israel, any name that a person carries speaks to a particular part of either their calling and the highest parts of their spirit. So I want to first say this and just revisit for a moment that, as mentioned earlier, Sarah, being of the same bloodline lineage as Abraham, she too is privy of the knowledge and traditions that he receives. The knowledge and tradition that Abraham receives helps to make, shape, and form him into the prophet that he becomes. So it stands to reason that the same knowledge and traditions that he received, she received too, independently of even meeting him, which helps to shape and mold her into a prophetess. And this is why she is known by her family as Iscah, rooted in the word sakah, which is the Hebrew term for a seer, Seer. Remember what the Bible says early on in the book of Samuel? He who is now called a prophet was formerly called a seer, right? Sarah, under the name Iscah, denotes that she was a prophetess before she even met Abraham. And I want to add something by sharing my screen just 2 more times and then turning it right back over to Nasika Hadassah. All right, I'm going to share my screen just 2 more times and then turn it right back over to you. So in Genesis chapter 21, we read, hallelujah, but God said to Abraham, do not be distressed over the boy or your servant. Whatever Sarah tells you, do as she says, for it is through Isaac that seed, offspring, shall be continued for you. God instructs, commands that Abraham hearkens, listens to the voice of Sarah over that of his own views. Think about that for a second, everybody. Let that marinate. Abraham is a prophet. When he wants to follow his own vision, pun intended, he's a prophet. When he wants to follow his own vision, it's not fueled by ego. When he believes to himself that, Hagar and Ishmael should be here, he's a prophet. So his assumption is he must know what is right, or else God would have revealed to him what was wrong about this. That revelation existed, everyone, that it was wrong, but it had not come to Abraham. It came to Sarah. So now here's where things get even more interesting. So in our oral tradition, not only does it teach that Sarah was a prophetess, just like Abraham was a prophet, but it even tells us she was a greater prophet than that of Abraham. Check this out. It says, for a period of 2 years, Abraham could devote himself undisturbed to his chosen task of turning the hearts of men to God and his teachings. In his pious undertaking, he was aided by his wife Sarah, whom he had married. While he exhorted the men and sought to convert them, Sarah addressed herself to the women. She was a helpmeet worthy of Abraham. Indeed, in prophetical powers, she ranked higher than her husbands. Therefore, she was sometimes called Iscah, the seer, on that account. I'll read that last part again. She was a helpmeet worthy of Abraham. Indeed, in prophetical powers, she ranked higher than her husband. Therefore, she was sometimes called Iscah, the seer, on that account. That's heavy. In the oral tradition, not only is Sarah conceived of as a prophet, just like the Bible borns out and alludes to, but the oral tradition is clear. The reason behind the Creator telling Abraham that he has to hearken to the voice of his wife Sarah, there's a revelation that's coming to her that he doesn't see, is because the revelation of the Creator that was upon her was greater than that which was upon Abraham. And this is why some of the greatest parts of Revelation had come through her. That's heavy. Nasika Hadassah?